Welcome to the Synapse Podcast. I'm Dave Vans, and I'm here with
Laura DiBella. I'm the Secretary of Commerce for Florida and the President and CEO of Enterprise Florida.
So what does all that mean?
What does that mean? I get that question a lot. So Enterprise Florida is Florida's Department of Commerce, to put it simply. So back in 96, 97, the state of Florida was the first to convert its Department of Commerce to a public-private partnership named Enterprise Florida. And it's a gathering of business and government officials, to enhance the economy of Florida and the vitality of Florida. So we were the first state to do it. Other states have followed suit because it was such an amazing model that has been obviously bearing a lot of success, as you see over the years, and especially now. So that is why I have the President and CEO title, but I also have the Secretary of Commerce title, because of the agency's roles and responsibilities. So Enterprise Florida, think of it as like an umbrella agency that is responsible for many different verticals of our economy. So your traditional economic development activities, retention of businesses, recruitment of industry to Florida, high impact type of job applications. We have a venture capital arm called the Florida Opportunity Fund, which I wear a third hat as president for that. That's a very growing area within Enterprise Florida because of just all the innovation and startup activity that's happening here in our state. We have Space Florida, which is a division that is responsible for all the awesome things that you're seeing happening here and everywhere. We have our Florida Sports Foundation, which is responsible for everything responsible for sports, bringing sports here, retaining sports here. So your FIFAs, your Super Bowls, your national championships, we have an army of people dedicated to bringing that here to Florida. And then of course we have, most importantly, we have our Military and Defense Division, which is responsible for protecting and sustaining our military presence that's here, because of not only all the jobs that it provides, from a separation standpoint once they exit, but also the shadow labor force that exists with, any spouses or anyone that may be coming along with them. And of course the Homeland Security aspect. That's important to businesses to know that we are very strong, and we have 20 bases here in Florida. So there's a lot of jobs that are attached to that directly and indirectly. So, and we have a small business division. I can't forget about that. 99.8% of businesses in Florida are small. So we have a dedicated team for that specifically too. So I think that covers it. So
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
I could even go on. We could just make it all about
that,
right?
We could talk about that for a long time.
But I want to know what's your story. So did you grow up in Florida?
I did. Yeah, I was born and raised in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Where at?
Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale, all right.
Yeah, East Coast. I am the daughter of two Italian immigrants, actually. My parents came to this country in 1966. My dad came in with $7 in his pocket. So he was a true American dream story, if you will. So both of my parents are entrepreneurs. My dad was a machinist. Worked his way up, did all odd jobs, learned the language, became a citizen. Eventually became one of the most relied upon manufacturers for aerospace and defense growing up. So his biggest success story, if you will, was he did the gyroscope housing for the Hubble Space Telescope. So really unique background and upbringing that I had, because I learned to appreciate industry, especially that industry, aerospace and defense, at a very young age. Of course, and everything that's involved with that. Sadly, a lot of his business went to China when I was 12 years old, and we went basically completely bankrupt. It was a really hard time for my family. A very impactful time, which I carry with me to this day, because that experience, seeing business folding, seeing the stress that it did to our family, and I was young at the time, but I wasn't naive. I saw enough, and felt enough.
How old were you at that time?
12.
12.
I was 12.
So you were
I was
young
my
enough maybe not to
formative
understand
years.
everything, but you were old enough to see the impact and remember it.
Absolutely, because
Yeah.
it lasted a while. It lasted a while to rebuild, and my mom went back to work, so we became latchkey kids, myself and my brother, who was 17 months older than I. So for a good 5 to 6 years, I would say, it took a while to build back the business. He scaled back and went into more select applications, entered into the environmental side, in oil and gas. So eventually we got back on our feet, but that experience, I would like to say, was transformative for me because, fast forwarding to when I was introduced to economic development, I realized that I was almost, in a way, healing a wound there, like being able to be that person to hopefully prevent or support families, in a better way where they can, be better for their family and then provide for their family. It became it's the most rewarding job I've ever had.
Did you know that you were going to go towards that?
I had no idea. It's amazing how the world kind of goes full circle, on you. So after I graduated college, I went to University of Florida. I was the first to go to college in my family. My brother didn't go. I entered into real estate. I did real estate on the side and turned it into a career, actually. So it was through commercial real estate that I entered into the economic development field. I was recruited to economic development. So I was doing a lot of healthcare related real estate. Of the 14 years, the last seven, Hospital Corporation of America was my bread and butter client. And few people realize that healthcare is as retail as Publix or banks. So I was going into farmland and like some very rural communities, identifying sites for hospitals, all over Florida. I got to know the state really well because of that. So Nassau County came calling. Nassau County is on the northeast corner of the state. It's one of the fastest growing counties in Florida now, north of Jacksonville, flush with Georgia. They came calling in 2014, October 2014, and they said, we think you'd be good for the executive director for economic development position. And I was like, why? I'm like, I'm a broker. Like, I'm not an economic developer. And they're like, no. They're like, you try this. You'd be good at this. So I was like, all right, why not? I'll try it. If I don't like it, I'll just go back to real estate. No big deal.
What year is this?
2014.
2014.
So started it and I was hooked, and I was just like, this is amazing. I knew what was about to happen there too, so it was, I was like, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. Like, I need to just do it. I can go back to real estate, so I knew how much growth. We were basically creating a city there, a new city in Nassau County. It was a rural county, but anyways, I could go into that for ever and ever. But bottom line, I was bitten by the economic development bug then, and I've never left, essentially. So I was there for 5 years, and then 2.5 into the 5 years, the port of Fernandina, which was in Nassau County, but it's a separate government entity, they needed a port director. Their port director resigned. So I was basically voluntold to be port director 2.5 years into the 5, just no pay. They just said, can you help us? And just knowing how important the port is to my economy, I was like, I can't watch that port, fail under my leadership. So I was like, sure, I'll do it. And also I was like, this is a really great opportunity for me to learn. I was like, I'm gonna learn something that I would have never had the opportunity to otherwise. So what was supposed to be a temporary assignment ended up being a 2.5 year gig. So I was wearing both the economic development director hat and the port director hat, and saw a lot actually on that side. I learned the water side of economic development, like ports. Without ports, economic development would not exist. Really, in the sense of where economic development began, and through this day, there's not enough trains, planes, or trucks to support any of the cargo activity that comes through our seaports. From there, in November 2019, the Florida Harbor Pilots Association reached out to me. They were looking for an executive director. They never had one. They wanted somebody to work for them on their behalf in Tallahassee. And for if you're not familiar with a harbor pilot is, they are the top guns of the maritime world. They're the best of the best. They navigate all of the vessel traffic, nearly all of the vessel traffic in and out of our seaports. So by law, there has to be a state licensed harbor pilot on board every single ship that comes in and out of the port. So I conveniently was appointed to that role 3 months before the pandemic, before the shutdown, before the supply chain nightmare took over. So I got a crash course on everything that has to do with seaports and supply chain and rail and everything that all the interconnectivity and how it affects economic development, and managed to keep everything afloat, pun intended, in that time frame. So I was with them until I was hired by Enterprise Florida in July of 2022, and I started as the deputy secretary with the intention of having a boss, but I never got one. So I was operating as not only deputy but also acting secretary since then. And just last week they elevated me to the secretary role. So put it all together, I like to say you have a pretty well-rounded individual that sees Florida's economy from the corporate side, the land side, and the water side. So kind of a unique perspective.
And someone who grew up seeing how an impact of the economy what it can do on a family. Seeing all that, you're very well-rounded. That's incredible.
Yeah, because I didn't say it before, but I lost my brother like when he was 23 years old to drugs. And I can point exactly to that time, as that's when we lost him. We lost him when we were under such financial stress. So when people ask me like, what's the why? Like, what's the reason? Like, it's not the power, it's not the financial, it's not any of that. Like, it is truly, me wanting to ensure that nobody ever experiences what we did. Like, it really was.
There's so many unknown strings that, in traumatic situations that come from that, and it can empower you. It how people respond to it. It's hard to kind of just follow that. It's a rabbit trail. I appreciate you sharing that. I feel from what I've seen, I've been here since 2010. I came here from Detroit, came from a very industrial area, son of immigrant parents from the Netherlands.
Oh, really?
Saw what it was like to grow up in that blue collar kind of environment. Coming into Florida was a completely different experience. I love the heat. I know it's weird to say, but like when it's like humid,
Me too.
I'm outside running. Like I love being outside. But I feel like since I've been here, I have seen just this fast pace of just what Florida's becoming. I feel like the world is looking at this going, what's going on in Florida? What do you think is the it factor for Florida? There is the military, there is the space industry, there's the simulation and the gaming entertainment technology, crypto's going on. There's so much happening with people starting up businesses that are tied in very many different directions. And it's also a great destination. People love the idea of living here. As you work to draw people here, businesses here, to open up here, what did you see as being the biggest factor for that? It's
really simple. It's the ability to do their business at their pleasure. I travel a lot in this position, and obviously I travel out of state quite a bit too. And you don't realize how good we have it here until you travel to these other states and you have companies, and people coming to you, not only expressing their love for our governor, but just the policies, and the deregulatory environment that we have, and the freedom and innovation that exists. Florida is fast removing its retirement community vibe, and really is rapidly becoming known for its innovative space. We're taking over from California. We're beating them by the hundreds of thousands in terms of startups. Just the investment that's coming to our state is because the people feel comfortable and safe here to do their business. And that applies to globally as well. So with all of the, forget about what's happening in the United States. That's one thing. But then you have, with all the turmoil that's happening globally, we're seeing quite a bit of foreign direct investment also coming to Florida, in record numbers because of the safety and security that Florida provides versus everywhere else. So the United States is seen as the safest place to invest because of what's happening in the world. Of all the states in the United States, Florida is one of the safest as well. So we're seeing a lot of this happening. In addition to the global positioning, repositioning of supply chain, and our affinity and access to everything Latin America, with all the reshoring activity, we're in the same hemisphere. There's a lot of factors that are contributing to what's happening right now, and it's just a confluence, like a perfect storm. But a vast majority of it has to do with businesses feeling comfortable that they can not only continue on, but expand here. And that's really the driving force. Like, I can't tell you I have a good call pretty much every single day with a rather large user of some sort, name the industry, doesn't matter, that is seeking to relocate here from another state. New York, Chicago, California, Washington, Maryland. Like, it's unbelievable. And then you have the other conversations of businesses that are tied to perhaps the mothership. I call them the motherships, but have an innovative application, that is growing through our opportunity fund. So it's just amazing what's happening. Like, it really is.
What do you do with a company, or do you get involved with once they arrive? So you've drawn them in.
Yeah.
Once they arrive, now what? Do you get involved in that piece of it as well?
Yeah. And there's a lot to be said about the service after the sale. So, unlike a broker where the transaction ends as soon as, you get that check and you deposit that check, we continue on with that company to ensure that they are integrated within the community and state. So we have call it a wraparound system, where we'll introduce them to their education partners, financing partners. We help them with their export and import needs. There's all sorts of applications that we can assist, with to ensure their viability here. Because the last thing we want is for them to not be successful. So there is a long service after the sale that not a lot of people realize, but that's a very big function of economic development as a whole in Enterprise Florida. A lot of people think it's recruitment. It's actually retention, because we take a bigger hit if we lose that tax base and that company and all that it provides to an area than if we never gained it to begin with. So that is really our focus.
There's big businesses that exist here, that are going to come here. And then you have these small startups. You see a lot of them here at Synapse that are coming out with these great innovative approaches to technology, healthcare, all this. How does a smaller business connect with a bigger business? Is there a way that bigger businesses can find ways to support smaller businesses, whether it's choosing to outsource work to smaller businesses as opposed to out of state? Is there a way that small businesses can work with the bigger ones so that they can thrive further? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I love the idea of doing that, the mentorship model. We're actually talking about doing that, to help assist with all of those things. Our small business division is kind of our complement to supporting that, where we will see the needs of the small business and kind of match them up with a larger business that perhaps has the wherewithal or maybe some guidance and mentorship as far as that's concerned. It's just a matter of how what type of needs they have. But that is definitely part of the wraparound system, in getting them the guidance and the resources that they need in order to, basically survive and continue to expand and eventually become one of those large businesses and return the favor, to someone else. So that is definitely part of the wraparound and the retention. That's the retention piece. A lot of people, because of the number of small businesses, a lot of people just think we are about the big business, but no, we're very much dedicated to the small business activity here. It's the backbone of the economy. So
earlier you said you had told me that this is your first time at Synapse.
Yeah.
You've gone through the whirlwind of like speaking, introducing, like you've been on stage, and it's been a whirlwind. We're halfway through the day already. So I don't know if I can ask you like what are your thoughts on Synapse at this point in time. So what I'd rather ask you is how did you get connected to Synapse? And before you've actually come today, what was your perception of what Synapse represented for the state of Florida?
I was connected through Synapse because our BD team, our business development team, is very active with the Synapse family and has been for years. It is a perfect place to really identify trends, understand what kind of a peek behind the curtain as to what industries are maybe focused on that we need to maybe develop policies around here in Florida. So it's a good way to stay on the ahead of the 8 ball as far as where business is going and where Florida is headed. But also Florida Opportunity Fund, our venture capital arm is very much a component of this summit because most of these, all of them I should say, are in need of some sort of capital, some sort of assistance, and that's what we provide there. So depending on that, we're looking to invest in companies, for the state to take a position in these companies. Innovation is in the center of all of our decision making. So we're looking for the cutting edge technology that we can support and help grow and develop an ecosystem around it. So that, in conjunction with the business development team, is where our interest lies. Here in the summit. As far as my thoughts on it, I think it's amazing. I did not think it was this big. I was, like I said, I was expecting a smaller stage, podium, something relative size, not 6,000 people.
Last thing.
Yeah.
What is it that do you have a target where you're going in the next year? Something that's on your agenda that you want to accomplish, you want to see happen? Is there anything out there that you'd like to share? Yeah,
and the answer is kind of a loaded one, but
fire away.
Yeah. We're in a really incredible snapshot of time right now. It's not going to last, so we need to take advantage of this to its fullest. We have. I hope it's going to last, as long as possible. But let's face it. There's ebbs and flows to the economy, and that's the nature. It's the nature of the beast. So we're in a situation where we have the perfect recipe of solutions, for businesses right now. We have a very pro-business environment. We have a deregulatory environment. We have a very proactive governor. We have and legislature to support him and his policies, and we have an incredible want for businesses to come here right now. Florida is just the place to be, for any industry. So we're working as fast as we can. Me and my team in Enterprise Florida, along with all the other verticals underneath us, we are working at a fever pitch to capitalize on as much as we can for as long as we can right now, until things change, and we can't say when that's going to be, but we're seeing, since January started, there's talks of a recession coming, and that's possible, but our business activity has only accelerated since January started. It hasn't slowed down, so I see a lot more. I see a lot of deals closing, a lot of big deals happening this year. And then to take it a step further, as far as something specific, I see a lot more space activity happening in our state. I think, I get asked the question a lot. They say, if you had to bet on one thing, if you had to invest in one thing right now, what would it be? And my answer is space. Like, everything is going to involve space. We have so much opportunity for space to flourish and grow in Florida, and it's not just relegated to the Space Coast, which is what everybody thinks. They just think, space is there. No, space is everywhere. It can be everywhere. When your infrastructure is water and you have 14 operating seaports, think about how much space activity can happen in this state at every single seaport. When I put it in that context, everybody's eyes open up, because it really expands the horizons to a point that I don't think anybody ever realized. Now, is every single one of our seaports going to become a spaceport? Not necessarily, but many more will. So just wait, and it could happen very soon. So that's really exciting. That's really exciting. So, and there's a huge supply chain behind that, and everything that is related to it. So we have a lot of runway ahead of us here in Florida. It's really exciting to say that.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking this time and
Thank
sharing a little of your story and what you do. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.